Hi, you guys. Dr. Jackie here. Today I want to talk a little bit about paraphrasing. Now, paraphrasing is a skill that you need to learn when you're in academics. In the universities and colleges, and even in our professional life, paraphrasing is the preferred method of using the ideas from outside sources and authors and experts. While it might be easier to use a direct quote, or literally taking a word for word copy and paste from one source and putting it into your own source, paraphrasing is much more preferred. And the idea is that direct quotes are like hot peppers. One or two enhances the flavor, but if you put in too many, the flavor is ruined. Okay? So because a writer is supposed to be writing their own papers, paraphrasing is a way to use outside information and evidence and supporting detail in a way where the writer is still writing the paper, not the outside sources. And the idea is where direct quotes are interested in the words of the outside source, a paraphrase is interested in the ideas. And so a paraphrase is something borrowed. It's an idea, a passage, an idea borrowed from another source. It could be a movie. It could be an interview. It could be a website. It could be a book. It can be a journal. Wherever you're looking for supporting details and evidence, wherever that is, you are borrowing the idea when you paraphrase because you're using the idea and you're writing it in your own words. So the goal of paraphrasing is to understand the idea, but to write it in your own words. And that requires significant changes, not a word or two, but significant changes in not only the words, but the word order, right? So it has to be both. It has to be the vocabulary, the words that were in the original idea written by the author of another source. Those words have to significantly change, but the order of the ideas have to significantly change as well. So to do a paraphrase well, you need significant changes in words and word order. Okay? So let me give you an example. You can go out to the Purdue Owl and you can find this on their website, okay? But they direct quote a source, Lester James from 1976. And he says, quote, "Students frequently overuse direct quotation in taking notes, and as a result, they overuse quotations in the final research paper. Probably only about 10% of your final manuscript should appear as directly quoted. Therefore, you should strive to limit the amount of exact transcribing of source materials while taking notes." Now, it doesn't exactly matter what he says, although the statistic of about 10% of quoted material in a paper is a good one. The idea is, how do we paraphrase that direct quote from James Lester's book? And we do that from not only changing the vocabulary around, but also moving it and shifting it so the word order is phenomenally different, significantly different. And the idea is, reading it, we shouldn't recognize James Lester's words at all. We are only looking at James Lester's ideas. And so notice what we do here. Look at research paper in the middle of the quote. We put it up front. In research papers, students often quote excessively. We're changing the words. Of course, you're going to have the word quote over and over again because that's what we're talking about, right? Failing to keep quoted material down to a desirable level. And in that case, what we're saying is it's wrong to have too much quoted material, which is exactly the idea that's in the original passage. But notice while James Lester used 10%, we just said keep the material down to a desirable level. And then we say, since the problem usually originates during note-taking, so here's the very last part of James Lester's direct quote is about taking notes. And here we use it kind of in the middle of our paraphrase. It is essential to minimize the material recorded verbatim. So in other words, we're talking about not putting things directly on our notes. We don't want to write word for word from James Lester's book. Instead, what we want to do whenever we're looking at a source is we want to just write in our own words, even when we're taking notes, the most essential part, the main idea of whatever the author is talking about. That way, we won't accidentally plagiarize paper. Okay, finally, here's how the process works. So you want to read the source. You want to make sure you understand the idea. Understand it so well. You may have to read it a few times until you have it. You understand the idea. You don't need the words of the author anymore. You have the author's idea. Okay? Then close that source. And here's the reason why. We're all human, right? And when we're writing a paper, it's work. So we're going to look for the easiest way to avoid hard work. And the way to do it is to just glance over at the original source. If we do that, we're more likely to plagiarize. Okay, so close the source, get rid of it, put it away. And then the main idea that you know, that you understand completely, write in your own words. In the beginning, when you're learning to paraphrase, you might want to then open the source and compare your paraphrase to the original. Make sure that it's significantly different in words and word order. And then when you're done your paraphrase, give credit for the idea. So you can see in our James Lester example, here we use quotation marks and we give James Lester the sourcing credit. But in this one, even though we write it in our own words, it's James Lester's idea. So we want to give him a little pat on the back here. Hey, way to go, James Lester. I borrowed this idea from his work. And that way you avoid plagiarism. The other thing that does is if you can cite authors, published authors, experts, any kind of people who do the work that gets published, you literally are bringing a source to stand right behind you and verify what you're saying in your papers. The more people you can put in that verifies your facts, your statistics, your main ideas, the better the reader will accept them. So the more people you give credit to, the better your facts are. They won't be considered opinions because you have others that are verifying. Okay? Take care. Happy writing.